Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you after Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And I would like to tell you that OKC had a 15-point lead. They cruised to an easy victory at home, no problem. That's what it looked like it was going to happen, folks. And yet, I'm joined right now by referee Chip Clark, who was texting me saying, I don't think it's going to happen that way. And I didn't believe him, but here we are. I mean, I don't even know where to begin on this incredible run in the fourth quarter that got them back in this game. Chip, what are you thinking?
Yeah, this is simply remarkable, right? So, you text me somewhere at the start of the fourth quarter and said, I think OKC is about to break it open, which that was a reasonable thought. The way they were playing defense, the way the Pacers had been struggling turning the ball over all game. They had a better third quarter protecting the ball, but you got that feeling. And then I was like, oh, I see what you did there. I was like, every time people count them out, they come back and make it a game. Nice strategy. And it turned out to happen again. Unbelievable, remarkable finish. Goodness, gives us something to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I didn't mean it that way. I literally thought, I was like OKC in 6, then maybe last week, and then I'm like, it might be OKC in 5, and then I'm thinking this could be a sweep, honestly, the way I was watching it, because what you saw from the Thunder was a more talented team. They were so much more aggressive defensively than anything the Knicks could offer the Pacers, so they weren't used to that at all. Yeah. That said, some of those were unforced turnovers, but it was also because they were sped up. And then I'm thinking, well, the Pacers play with speed. They want to go fast, but this is a team that they might not want to do that with. If they don't have then what do you have? It didn't look good at all on the fast breaks for the Pacers. Right? Nothing really worked very well for them and all their bread and butter stuff. So I can't believe that they pulled this thing off. And then that wasn't like a great shot that they got. Like a 20-footer with a hand up, and that's an old school 90s style finish. You don't normally see people shoot those anymore.
I know. Well, it's so you mentioned it. The Pacers style of play, they push the pace, right? And so doing that in the first half, they're still trying to do it. And they did it some in the second half as well. But when they're doing it in the first half and you're running up against the OKC defense like that, who gets their hands in the passing lanes, they're able to deflect those passes over the top that they're trying to get down low to Turner or Siakam. They ran into a buzzsaw with that early in the game. And OKC is their defense is phenomenal. And so when you're pushing the pace like that, it's all, kind of just moving around so quickly. They throw away a lot of passes and create a lot of turnovers, OKC did. But then the Pacers in the second half, they protected the ball a little bit better. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm not going to say they slowed the pace down completely, but they definitely let off the gas a little bit when it comes to that because they had to protect the ball. And then in the fourth quarter, you saw they just started making some shots like they do in the fourth quarter all playoffs. And I mean, the shots they had from Turner hitting his first 3, which was a big one. Nembhard had a great fourth quarter. And then Hallie, there was a couple and Nesmith had a good or a couple of big buckets. And then you get the sense then where they're going to have the hot hand and Hallie's not, And so there was a couple times I'm saying to myself, Haliburton, pass the ball. You don't try to take a shot right now. You got other hot hands. Let them find it to try to work themselves back into the game. But then who else do you want to have holding the ball in the final seconds than Hallie making a clutch, tough shot over a contesting defender?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It has to be Hallie. He's already proved himself way too often in this playoff series itself. But the thing was, and my thought process was, it's like, okay, SGA was dominant. Like, this is the difference between OKC and Indiana. SGA, they can go to a guy that can create any advantage he wants and finish any shot he wants. Mm-hmm. Haliburton disappeared completely for a huge stretch of this game. And I'm like, this is not the guy they can rely on. He's not that guy. And he probably isn't. But what does he do instead? He gets 10 rebounds. He didn't even get a whole lot of assists. He was sort of out of the game. They were the way they were defending him so strongly. He sort of was like, you know what? I'm going to bring my defender a little bit out of the way here and let you guys cook a little bit. And there's a lot of value to having a team. As a coach, I love to believe that there is value. And then you realize in the history of the NBA that without that SGA guy, it's like you can't win. But I think we might be getting one of those moments where it happens, the Blazers in 77 or 77, I think it was, maybe the Pistons in 04, whatever the years these were. Every once in a while, you get a team like this, and they can kind of collectively do it. And it's been I don't even know what to make of it. That Nemhart 3, that was just ridiculous. ISO, step back. The guy was, I mean, you couldn't play better defense. That was probably the first inkling that something was up here down the stretch.
Oh, absolutely. And then even after that, you got that where the Pacers get a stop right after that. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's on for real. And they come down and Neesmith gets that lane to the basket. And then Dort comes up with this just phenomenal principle of verticality play. He stays in his vertical plane, absorbs the contact, and then swipes down to get that block. And you're like, okay, well, this one's probably going to be over then. And it wasn't. I mean, it's just unreal. I think it's interesting you brought up those other teams too, because like I think this could be, and granted, this series is far from over. OKC has definitely not just got what it takes, but I expect them to come back in game 2 and get game 2. I expect them to at least take one of the two on the road in Indiana and make this an even better series. So it's far from over. OKC was definitely the better team tonight, in my opinion, for the majority of the game. But that's been the way it's been in a few of these other games that the Pacers have played in. And then they've just found a way. And you got to tip your hat.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter who played better when you can steal the game on the road like this. It's exactly what happened in New York. Yep. And, you know, what happened. And then obviously the key is in game 2. And I already had was wrapping my head around what I'd say when OKC wins this game. And, the Pacers had their one good chance, right? They played really badly. They turned the ball over all the place. They weren't getting Hallie involved. And they were close. Like they can look at that, but they can also say, man, like that was our best chance. And we're not going to get another chance like that. Well, now we shift to all the pressure is now on OKC. They literally have to win the game 2 at home. If they lose the second game at home, as we saw with the Knicks, even though the Knicks came and won 2 of the next 3, like you're going to lose the finals if you lose your first 2 games at home. I just don't see it. It's a 90-some% chance of winning that for the Pacers. And so it's a lot of pressure to put on the youngest team in the league or youngest team wherever they are right now.
Yeah, they are the youngest team in the league. Well, what do you feel, and we'll get into super chats here in just a sec, what did you feel went wrong? If you got your pulse on it, what went wrong for OKC in the fourth quarter as Indiana started to stage this comeback?
Well, part of me was looking at how the offense was structured and how it was working. And, part of it was like they didn't necessarily need to run a lot of action to get advantages and scores. But you can look at Chet blowing a layup. You can look at J-Dub blowing a layup down the stretch in the last couple minutes. And that kind of fell apart. And then I was surprised because they were getting the line. They were really aggressive. They were forcing the Pacers to foul them. And that would have been a nice recipe down the stretch as well. But then SGA, it was all stagnant ISO at that point. And the last couple of possessions, out of a timeout, Dagnall called a beautiful play where they had SGA back screen for Wallace, maybe, who cuts back door. Beautiful pass from Jalen Williams. Layup. That's teamwork. That when you're getting guys that are that good utilizing team offense, that's even better. Disappeared completely. No timeouts, by the way. The only timeout we had was a review, right? Yep. So I was running from inside my house to get in here. I'm waiting for a timeout at some point in the last 6 minutes to come in here and get set up. There was no timeouts until then. They needed to get more organized and figure out how to get their offense to run better and get better shots down the stretch. And then SGA gets blocked at the rim on, a play that he normally either finishes or draws a foul, but he just kind of went up and it was kind of weak, right? And then I don't even know who blocked it, but maybe Toppin, somebody just knocked it out of the air.
You know what? And so SGA is going to get his, right? And he had a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of free throws, okay? I think with a few minutes left, he was 5 for 6, and then they fouled him while they were in the penalty and put him on the line for 2 more, which he made both of those. So I think he probably ended up with around 8 free throws, I think. I didn't check the final box. But what I was going to say about this is it's hard to say they defended him well, but they defended better than New York did at not fouling. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you almost got to let him get his if you're going to not foul, if you're not going to put him on the free throw line. And I think that they did a good job of, all right, he's going to get his, he's going to eat, but it's going to be one of those things where we're not going to give him those and ones. We're not, and he didn't really get a lot of opportunities to do that tonight. Yeah. And so he's still going to end up with, 30 plus, but at least he's not going to end up with 40 plus or 45, because he's getting to the line, 12 to 13 times. So And kudos to the officials tonight too. I thought they officiated contact with SGA very well. I thought there was a lot of contact plays that they passed on that were retreating defenders. And in credit Indiana, they didn't have their hand in the cookie jar very much, like New York did.
Yeah, Indiana had a lot of practice against Brunson, and that they were really good. And we always talk about showing your chest to the ball handler, and part of the reason is it gives you the best opportunity to stay in front and defend to the man. But really, what it also is doing is keeping you in legal guarding position, so that you can absorb that contact. It's not a foul, and I think that a lot of people see a lot of that kind of contact when they're in especially in Oklahoma City is also terrific at this. And it's not a foul. That's how you coach defense. And I think people who don't play, and I hate to pull that card, but you didn't play, man, or you didn't play ever. But by the way, it probably doesn't matter. Fans are fans. They have their experience with the game, and they're going to turn it off if they don't like it, right? So we can sit there and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a player, but it doesn't help the ratings, No. It doesn't help them feel any better. We could try and explain it to them and like, all right, you played like JV in your high school or something like that. You never had a good coach who taught you these things. And this is how it is taught. This is what they're doing. This is what the rules are. But that's a really, as you and I have discovered on Twitter, it's a really hard argument to try and convince anybody of when you do that. And certainly saying that, oh, you didn't play at a high level or a high enough level it will never get you where you need to go. Let's get to some super chats. We have a lot of them coming in here. And don't forget, if you want us to answer your question, the best way to do that is over on the YouTube side with the super chat. It really helps to keep the show going. And we'll give you a lot of love and a lot of hype. And I want to hear from you guys. So head over there if you want to ask a question. And our first one is from Ken C. Thank you so much, Ken. Really, really appreciate it. It might be the first one we've seen from Ken, but awesome. Welcome to the conversation. With 24 turnovers and still a W, SGA needs more free throws to win. I mean, listen, I think they just needed those layups they blew down the stretch.
That's true. I agree with you on that. I mean, it's just remarkable. I keep saying that. It's remarkable that they could have 24 turnovers and still get this W. I think the blown layups, and it was at the end of periods too. There was some missed layups. I think you said Chet missed one at the end of the first, maybe, or at the end of that. But there was some open layups that were missed, and then down the stretch, some really good defensive plays at the rim by Indiana as well. But again, these are ones SGA usually makes. You know what I mean? You also get the sense. I think there was like with less than a minute, SGA had a jumper from like 12 feet maybe, and it goes in every time, and it didn't. You know what I mean? Like you knew as soon as he shot that, I was saying, okay, that's two, and he missed it. And he usually is that mid range is his bread and butter. So he could probably get to the free throw line more, but I think it was just. I wouldn't say they needed that to win. They should have won the game. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 15-point lead. What was the highest lead they had?
16. I remember it being 16 at one point, but 15 was in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so they blew it a couple of times. I have a feeling there's probably a couple, 2 or 3 possessions when they got that lead where they kind of got a little too cute and didn't finish the job. And that's what these young teams don't learn, or they need to learn. And we saw this with Denver as well, where there's moments where they had the game and then they figure it out. And but I know OKC fans were wringing their hands a lot during that Denver series, thinking, "Oh, they're not mature enough. They don't have enough experience." But they got it. They figured it out. They righted the ship. They had a couple close games that they did perform well. So we know they can do it. But every series and every the finals is a whole other animal that they need to adjust for. Now the Pacers don't have any experience of this either. Nope. You saw Obi Toppin look like a deer in the headlights, man, and the ball was just flying out of his hands. But hey, then it became the Toppin versus Dort show. Who was going to hit more threes?
Right.
All those are really huge. And then I love that they tweeted out in the middle of the game the highest arc shots. I was tweeting to you saying that Dort's issue, although he's shot at a high percentage at varying parts of his career, his arc is way too high, and it's 57 degrees. Like that's that's at least 10 degrees higher than the optimal, and you should only be shooting that when you are heavily contested and you have to hit it over to D. That's how he regular shoots it. So let's get to a couple of super chats because we have a bunch here to get through. The Drew Show. Thank you so much, Drew. Always great to see you. Best friend of the breakdown. Nerds. You NBA metric nerds, you let us live, AI nerds. You OKC in 5, maybe a sweep nerds. Laugh out loud. You know how rare sweeps and wins in 5 are? 70 plus years of data. Nerds. Yeah, right. I mean, listen, the easiest way to say it would be OKC in 6, right? That's the most common permutation of those numbers. And that's kind of where I was. Not anymore. I mean, this is like a 7-game series at this point. I feel like once you take it the first game on the road, there's not going to be a lot of pressure at all on the Pacers in game 2. They came they got what they came for.
Yep.
And that's what happened in the New York game too. Again, when they were in New York,
Yep.
and they just thoroughly outplayed the Knicks. I think at that point they got the glow and they got the enough of their what's am I looking for, the confidence and really gave it to them. Yep.
I think in game 2, like I said, I expect OKC to come back guns blazing, but I think that. I mean, I would be disappointed if I saw Indiana just be content with game 1, and just kind of coast through game 2. Do I think OKC is going to win game 2? Yeah, I do. But I think the Pacers are going to put up a fight. I really do. I think they're not just going to be content with one game here on the road. I think they're going to want to just go for the jugular and I think they're going to push the pace again too. And I think they're going to work in some ways to protect the ball a little bit better in that first half to let it not get that lead, not get so big going into the second half.
Yeah. I'm looking at the game 2 against the Knicks just to remind myself. It was Siakam had 39 points. It just destroyed them. It hardly missed. No one else played like amazing for the Pacers. But and then if you remember, Brunson went and had 36 and 11 right back at him. And they had some better games, but down the stretch, the Pacers were just too good. They would not let them back in. So, OKC, again, from what we saw with enough of game 1, you have to imagine they can recreate that again and feel pretty good about where they were and then be able to chip away a couple mistakes they made down the stretch. I'm anxious to dig back in the footage and really kind of figure out what that moment was, because part of the problem I think the Pacers had in the first half, it was so overwhelming, the defense and the pressure, they couldn't get the ball in advantageous positions. The first play of the second half, they run a pick and roll and force a switch for Turner with a Nemhard on him, I think, and he got it right under the basket. He wasn't getting it in the first half, even though they were getting that switch. They were having trouble getting it to him. They got it right down to him, got a layup, and that was a good sign that they were adjusting and saying, okay, we need to break this pressure in a way of getting the ball into the lane better, and that was what they did.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you this too, because we talk about OKC's youth and their inexperience, like in the finals, and obviously Indiana. Lack of experience in the finals, and also fairly young. I wanted to ask you this. How much do you think momentum plays in a final series with young teams versus you've got those experienced teams, people that have been there before, and momentum is not such a big thing game to game because they have their wisdom, they have their smarts, they've got their experience that they can rely on. And what do you see? Do you see any momentum playing a huge factor with younger teams like this, to where they have kind of a short memory if they're winning and they just ride the momentum wave, versus OKC, they're young. Do you think that the momentum for the Pacers stealing this one can affect them, and they can have a game 2 that's kind of weak?
I think that, Chet missing that layup was a good example of that, where he was overwhelmed, and I think maybe Jalen Williams as well. You could see it in his eyes. Chet has missed a couple, he's played better. He's gotten kind of right at the ship, but there was earlier in the playoffs where he, again, looked the same way, where he just seemed nervous. And, that totally happens. It happens, Toppin was nervous too. They all looked a little nervous to start. So there's no question that OKC has that, and it's in there. It's in there until it's not there. Right. Yep. So I don't know if it's as much momentum as it is just sort of nervousness, and they don't have any experience, and you never know when that's going to bite you in the butt. Right. It's going to bite in the weirdest places, because, Chet looked good. He was going to the hole strong. He made a nice pass to the corner for a kick out. Maybe he got the assist on that 3. I think maybe he hit that shot. It was an open 3 to Caruso maybe.
Oh yeah.
And then, although maybe Caruso, I know Caruso missed one, but then he hit one. So Chet looked fine, no problem. And then all of a sudden he doesn't look fine, right? When he's really, when the lights are brightest. So they have to go through it. And Chet's gone through, he's played in all those Final Fours, right? So he has a feeling for that. And now he has his feet wet in this one. So let's get to a couple more. Then we got Chris to bring on the show, but let's get here to Cliffside. Hey, Cliff, great to see you as always. Thanks so much. SGA carries the load, but J-Dub got to be more efficient. Well, let's see here. J-Dub Jalen Williams was 6 for 19 at 31.6%. 17 points. Yeah, and I think I would have loved to see him get that last one and made it 7 for 19, and I think he would have felt better. But yeah, if he shoots anywhere normal and he's way in the 20s, the game is just an OKC win column.
Yep, I agree with that. I agree. You gotta, so the supporting cast has got to be there for both teams, honestly, for them to have a chance. You're going to have your guys that get theirs. SGA is one of them. But again, SGA is that guy in the whole series. So the Pacers I don't want to say they don't have that guy, because we've seen some of their guys go for big games, right? But they don't have that consistent superstar that's going to go for 30 every night. So, but they do it by committee, and man, it's fun to watch. But I think that the supporting cast is a big deal for this series.
I agree. So Cliffside, thanks you guys right back at us. Why is 3 the perfect number of reps? Why not more? Interesting.
Awesome. And listen, I've debated this with people on social media before, and I would much prefer the 3 officials versus the 4. And here's why. A lot of people think that having an extra ref is going to make things easier and they're going to see more. And while there may be an element of truth to that, the reason we have 3-person mechanics is you work a triangle. Okay. And so we always want to be in a triangle at all times. And that's because angles are the most important thing in officiating, right? There's no way that you can have 4 officials really and keep that perfect triangle to where you have that slot look that can see across the lane from the sideline, and then have the other angles like this. So honestly, the angles that the 3-person mechanics present actually make it easier to see certain plays from different angles that are curl aways or curl twos. If you got to play curling 2, you're going to be able to see it better. But if you have a 4-person crew, you can't have one official. You can't do a diamond where you have one official under the basket, because you can't have an official right under the basket. They'll get killed. And then you don't want to put it like a square where you have one in each corner and one at the top in each, because then you lose the slot officials look that would be right across the middle. You can work it different ways, but there is a reason why the 3-person crew has stood the test of time over the last couple decades, is because the triangle system works to keep open angles on plays.
It's funny. I was just about to say the triangle offense works, and for a real good reason. And the same concepts, I feel like, with refereeing for sure.
That's a great question, though, Cliffside. Thank you.
Yeah, great. All right, let's get to all right, Chris. We'll get you in 1 second. Let's get to a couple more of these. The Drew Show. Thank you again, Drew. As always, if it comes to coaching, who is the better coach? Carlisle is the better coach.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hands down, he's a better coach. He's already got the championship pedigree. But I think when you talk to a lot of coaches, he kind of drifts in the background and doesn't always get that top slot when you talk about Spoelstra or Kerr or anybody else is in that list. But Carlisle should be, and I'd like to. They haven't had a quick glimpse of him at the halftime, what he was saying to his team, and you also see him like. We haven't even talked about Tibbs getting fired. We haven't. We did a show with Combo, but what I did in the video today, which you should all watch if you haven't, was I did mention that the body language of Tibbs is so negative all the time in a way that it could have an effect on your players. And they caught Carlisle a few times who was just like, play on, just keep playing, forget about it. Like Obi Toppin, he's not yanking him out after throwing a turnover, he's not yelling or whatever. It's just like, get a stop, get the ball back, we'll keep going, right? He understands that, especially in his situation. And I think that's one of those things that gives your team a boost. Now, Daigneault is not negative at all, but he actually isn't. He's kind of neutral, right? He doesn't really have either way. And there might be notions where the young team of the OKC needs a little, more excitement to get them going. Although those guys are pros. I mean, a guy like Alex Caruso comes in. He was dismantling the team on defense, just dismantling them everywhere the ball was, and he was nearby. He was causing havoc. But anyway, those guys didn't, played as well as they could. But I feel like Daigneault might be able to take a page out of finding a little bit more emotion on the sidelines in a positive way.
Yeah, I love Carlisle, man. I would love to play for a guy like Carlisle, for real. Yeah. But he's positive in ways, but he's also firm when he needs to be. Yeah. And like him telling his players to play on is not just when they make a bad play, but it's also when they commit a foul and get called for a foul. We've seen it a couple times in the past series where they'll be twirling their fingers telling Carlisle to review the play. And he won't even look to his bench to see if he should review it, because he knows an out of bounds play or a foul early in the second quarter or something like that. It's not, we need to save these timeouts. He's smart like that too. He saves his timeouts to use them for challenges. He saves those challenges, and he'll just tell them, no, just go keep playing.
Yeah.
And again, great challenge tonight by him. That was the time you want to use it. Okay. It was unsuccessful, but that's when you want to save it for plays like that. It could have very easily been a situation where Siakam was knocked off balance that caused him to go out of bounds. And then you get to review that play and get the proximate foul and the overturn. That would have been a huge boost for them to have the ball, down by 1 with a few seconds left.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for him, but that's when you want to save your challenges. And he's smart with those things too.
Absolutely. Well, let's bring on a friend of the breakdown, Chris, to talk more about his analysis. He's always great and always welcome to come on the show and give us his breakdown. So, Chris, what's happening, my man? How are you doing?
Doing good. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
sir.
All right. Perfect. Amazing game. Didn't think it was going to turn out this way, but we're here now. I was definitely higher, I guess, on the Pacers than a lot of people. I didn't think they were going to win this series. Who knows? They still could. OKC is, top to bottom, still the better team. But like I said before in the past live streams, like this Pacers team plays the full 48 minutes. It doesn't matter what the score is. They are going to keep playing. OKC kind of, I don't want to say took their foot off the gas, but around the 2 minutes, 3 minute mark, it was just SGA top of the key and just him going ISO, like you said. And when they did bring the extra help, J-Dub missed the 3. He missed the open 3. He missed the layup. Chet also missed the layup in transition. And then Shea missed the mid-range, the free throw line that Nembhard kind of contested. He made him like bring it back down instead of go in straight into his shot, which I think maybe he makes the shot more 9 times out of 10, but that was the one time he didn't make it. But this Pacers team, they have an uncanny way of taking the pressure off themselves every single series. They shouldn't, other than the first round. I mean, it was Giannis, the Bucks. They weren't really a great team, but from then on, from the Cavs to this team, to OKC, they are the underdogs, and they either win game 1, win game 2, and they just take all the pressure off themselves. So game 2, they're going to play free. They'll probably play faster. They're probably I don't think they'll turn the ball over 25 times like they did today, but it's just so uncanny that they just find a way. We're just going to take the pressure off ourselves, put all the pressure on them, and we'll see how the chips will lay.
Yeah, I think Tom Haberstroh tweeted out something like that. No team in the playoffs had ever turned it over. How many times did they turn it over in the first half? Was it 19? No,
19. It was 20 or 19. Yeah.
No one had ever done it that many times before. I'm going to be able to reload the. Let's see. Is it ready yet? You know how they'll give him that. I can do the box score by halves at some. It's not ready yet, but it will be.
Quarters.
But let's get to some more super chats, shall we? Because we got a whole bunch and I want to get through them before they get too long in the tooth. So let's see here. Cliffside, thanks so much, Cliff. As always, back again with us. If you look at the fourth quarter shot chart for OKC, they didn't make a bucket outside of the restricted area. That's wild. It's wild in some sense, but it's also like if you're getting a lot of shots in the restricted area, then it makes sense that you're not, making any ones from the outside. But the Jalen Williams one that got that open 3 was big. And again, you have a 60% chance of missing those open ones, pretty much, maybe a little bit less than that. So it's, it happens. And by the way, the Pacers missed a bunch of good shots that they had at some point that were maybe a little bit hurried, but like good open shots they couldn't knock down until, Miles Turner hit a sidestep off the dribble 3, didn't he?
Off the backboard, left wing. Those are like omen shots.
Did I not even notice that?
Yeah, it hit backboard. Yeah.
Oh wow! I sometimes I get in a mode where I'm trying to catch up if I'm a little bit behind, and I might not even see it off the back. Amazing. All right.
That was ridiculous.
That's the basketball gods telling us something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are bad omens, though. Yeah, definitely. Well, for the other team.
All right. Let's get to Ven. Ven, another best friend of the breakdown. Always great to see you, Ven. Thanks so much for the super chat. And Pacers in 6 is what they're saying. Anybody want to agree with him?
I have to see game 2.
I would have felt better about making a prediction before now after this one. I'm just kind of a little bit lost. You know what I mean? So I think the Pacers can win in 6. I really do. But man, OKC, like Chris said, top to bottom, better roster.
Yeah.
I expect them to come back. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I think at this point, when you win that first game on the road, like, 7, maybe, I give OKC in 7 if they're going to take it. And all I can tell you is I hope that the rest of the games are like this. But that said, the game wasn't great for a lot of it, right? It was sort of getting off the rails and not that interesting. And it felt like, inevitable that the OKC Thunder were going to win. So, but I have a feeling like Chris said, they're not going to turn the ball over that many times again. I just don't, they don't normally do that. It's way out of character. But again, they haven't faced a defense like this, right? This is what OKC does. But let's just say they turn the ball over 15 times instead of 25. What was it? This 24.
25.
It's 15. Like, that's a pretty significant difference in there, and the game would be closer earlier. And then we got ourselves, a classic. So hopefully,
some of these Pacers games that they've ended up winning have not been great games. They've just come back. They pack all the action into those last few minutes. And man, I don't know which is better, to have a great competitive game the whole time, or the moments that we get to see down the stretch in these close games. Because I mean, heck, we get to see so many cool basketball plays throughout the course of an NBA game. But I've never yelled so much in the last few minutes of the game as
that's true.
Literally audibly sitting here watching, and I'm not even cheering for either team. I'm just neutral. But seeing some of these shots, I'm like, oh my God, like yelling out loud. My wife's like, what? I'm like, hey, another big shot.
Yeah. All right, let's get to another one. So Daniel City, a friend of the breakdown. Always good to see you, Daniel. Number 1 OKC fan. Hey, coach. Yes, I'm shocked, but OKC needed to make more shots. Indy did, and it kept them in the game. I'll take that shot from SGA to go up 3 every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Well, we talked about that. He's already mentioned what Nembhard does. Nembhard, by the way, has a distinct advantage, and no one else in the NBA does, is that they're both Canadian, and they play against each other, sure, all the time, growing up and then in the offseason. So Carlisle, I'm sure, looked at that and said, yes, we're going to sick you on him, and you're going to – you saw, right? They were pushing each other. And
I loved it.
Under SGA's skin, that was like,
and to Daniel's point, I would definitely take that shot from SGA to go up 3 every. That mid range, he doesn't miss that. He just doesn't.
Yeah. So I agree. Just made it, right? He just made that shot not long before that.
He made one. Yeah.
Yep. And so again, that one. But listen, I think that the Chet layup really was the one I thought that sealed it. Do you remember when that happened? It was in the last minute and a half, I think, right? I can look it up real quick.
Look it up, because I can't remember. I'd be interested to see what the time and score was.
Was that after a block? Was it after a block that they got on the other end?
I got it.
Transition.
This is no, that's a rebound. 439 missed a driving layup. That was when it happened? Let's see. That might have been it. Yeah, it was 439. So you know what? I thought it was later than the game. It wasn't. So forgive me.
Well, but that was a momentum thing too for Indiana, if I remember correctly, because that's around the time where they were staging their comeback, and so I think, if I remember correctly, I remember that sticking out, that missed layup is a big deal. So it had to be one of those.
Right. And now that said, it was, they were up by 4. They got to stop, and then Shea hits gets a driving layup on it. So that probably a lefty layup to go up by 6. So they did right that ship. So I don't know. In my mind, obviously, I was thinking it was even later, but so it wasn't as crucial. But there's the J Dub missed layup or floating bank shot, whatever, was at 25 seconds, and that was when they were up by 1. That one was tough because, again, the referees were letting them play, right? There was, it was you got to go like a man if you're going to go to the basket.
And there were really good shot contests on both sides down the stretch too, like good verticality. They weren't slapping the arms. They were getting to the ball. I think another missed shot, if I remember correctly, in the last couple minutes was Dort missed a 3, a wing 3 as well.
Yeah, he missed that one by a mile.
Yeah, he did.
That's the problem when you shoot that high arc. It's like it's not a consistent thing. You'll go hot and you'll hit 3 in a row and then you'll miss 5 in a row, and that's not what you want as a coach. But overall, he's been able to, I think he was at 39 or 40% the year before, and he was at close to 40 this year, around there, which is elite, which is good. But again, I suspect he's probably one of the more inconsistent shooters in the NBA.
But you said in the playoffs he's around 30%.
We got to add tonight's shooting, which was better. But yeah, overall, when I checked it during the game, it was like 30.3% in the playoffs, and that's not surprising either. Your percentage is going to go down in the playoffs anyway, right? Better defense, whatever. But that's a 10% drop for him. That's too much.
And the hit or miss thing you're talking about is like it's crazy because he misses one like that, but then like when he hit those 3 in a row. Yeah, I commented to you like he didn't even touch the rim on all 3 of those. It was just nothing but net. Like he couldn't miss.
Also, those are in the beginning of the game, right? It's not as much pressure, right? Close game, pass, you get the ball. A lot of pressure. You have to make those shots. Making those shots in the beginning is, to me, from a bad shooter is always a bad omen to me. Because I don't think you're going to make them at the end of the game. If you're making them all now, you're not going to make. I'd rather make them late than make them early. Right. Always.
I also have a feeling that I bet you he might shoot a little bit better when he's contested, when he's not like thinking about it as much. Nembhard does it too, although Nembhard did hit that one in the left corner on the break when he was wide open, but a lot of times he takes his time, he bends his knees way too much, and then doesn't hit those. And I feel like Dort also does that, but when he kind of has to rush a little bit, he actually gets a little bit better arc. I mean, when you get to 57, 58 degrees on your shots, and I know they're higher than that sometimes, the air conditioning could blow that thing out of the way. It's crazy. But let's get to another super chat because we have Drew. The Drew show is hot today. He's coming in hot. The guys are so selective. A quote unquote, a few mistakes by OKC and they'll improve. How about 24 mistakes by Indiana and a W? OKC and Indiana, no experience. Indiana has head coach with vast experience. Doesn't matter, nerds. Indiana in 6. So I don't know if the Drew show has ever revealed their true team and who they are allegiant to, but this sounds
maybe they have now.
Yeah, he's a closet Pacers fan here, so good to know. And you're right. We can look at it from both ways, but I just have to say that when you look at a team that controlled the game for as long as OKC did and the way they did it, you still got to feel like they can recreate that and take game 2.
Yeah, and we've already talked about the 25 mistakes that Indiana had, and kudos to them for being able to come back. I mean, it literally was a disaster for them in the first half of the game, and they were still only down by 12 at half. Yeah. I mean, unbelievable. And listen, I even told you their defense kind of kept them in it at halftime, but they had still you responded, well, OKC still scored 57 points in the first half, and they did, But the defense I was looking at is, like I said, Shea's going to get his. It's just, can you not make those extra foul mistakes? And they did foul a lot early, but I felt like they did better across that in the third quarter and fourth. I just feel like those mistakes that they made, they're not going to make those in game 2. But man, for them to be able to make that many mistakes and still come out victorious, just unbelievable. I'm not counting them out at all, Drew Show, not at all. They can absolutely win this thing.
And we can split the box score now. So the Pacers had 66 points in the second half. They lit it up more than what OKC did in the first half. And the Thunder they got 53 points in the second half, so they were better. But their field goal percentage is kind of low across the game. So that's a concern that that the Pacers are keeping keeping them relatively inefficient. So the pace is high, right? So 57 points is a lot, but I think that I'll tell you right now, they didn't. I don't think their percentage was that high. Let's look at the first half. So the first
percentage,
half, OKC was at 37% from the field. That's not good.
Nope.
No. So that's why they were so.
Yeah.
That's why it was so close. That's why the turnovers and them only being down by 12 didn't really make any sense. It's like this lead should be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. The defense was holding it. So good observation there. And it was my mistake to say 57 points a lot because I'm sure the pace was faster than anything we've seen from these teams, so far. But let's get to another super chat. Big man Sam, thank you so much. 1995 Magic versus Rockets, perfect example of Chip's point of momentum working against young teams. So you have to remember the Magic, that was Shaq and Penny playing against the Rockets, who had won the year before. The year before was the OJ chase in the middle of their series, and I think now next year. So they had that and Rudy T. I mean, plus you had Hakeem. I'm sorry, Shaq, man, but Hakeem was just another beast that no one figured out.
Yep, I mean, that veteran leadership there too from the Rockets. But yeah, again, youth for the Magic in that series, and then once the Rockets had it, they got the pedal to the metal, foot on the gas, and that momentum definitely worked against the Magic there too.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan of that Rockets team, by the way. I mean, they jump it down to Hakeem, wait for the double team, and he'd kick it out for three or he'd score, and that's the beginning of a stagnancy period of the NBA. But which coincided with the triangle as well. It's interesting parallels there. And then, funny because you're talking about all that veterans. You had Kenny Smith and Hakeem and Jim Peterson was on that team, by the way, who's, the play-by-play for the Timberwolves. Friend of the
yeah.
We should get him on the show at some point. We'll see. Right?
That'd be great.
And then a young Robert Ory and a young Sam Cassell.
Drexler, right?
Drexler joined, I think, after they won, looking for that third one. Then they didn't win it, right? Am I crazy? And then Barkley.
No, I thought he was for the second one. He was there for the second one.
Did Clyde get one and then Barkley joined and didn't get it? He got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Barkley didn't get it.
Yeah. I mean, wow, that's my era, and man, I'm it's 30 years ago now. That's kind of scary, but I mean, listen, I remember exactly where I was when the Nuggets won that 5-game first-round series over the Seattle SuperSonics in '94.
Yeah,
I remember that. That's when Dikembe is on the ground shaking the ball,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So at any rate, good times, but you can argue that we're probably in a better time now, except for the people who want to turn the game off because of the way SGA plays.
Right.
Now let's get to. I'm sorry, we got a lot more of these to get through. So if yell at me in the comments if I miss anybody, but I'm pretty sure I've seen everyone's super chat so far. Let's get to the Drew Show. Also, Siakam, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, has experience. Just saying. Okay, I'm sorry, you are absolutely right. He's got NBA Finals experience. He does. The Drew Show is hot, and he deserves to be hot on that one. I shouldn't have said they don't have any. And I also felt like Siakam isn't that guy either. He's not a good enough scorer. He's not really a good enough number two. And yet here we are, where he's good enough. I mean, he's good enough. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to buck you on that one a little bit. I'm a big fan of Siakam. Now, again, tonight, 16 points, I believe he had. Not his best night, but they were. Did we ever find out? I meant to watch these matchups a little bit more. Who did they have on Siakam for the majority of the game?
Right. So I checked it on the third quarter because, again, we have to talk about Dagnall doing the weird changing the starting lineup and putting Hartenstein on the bench.
Hartenstein.
And it didn't make sense to me because it felt like, to me, they could put Hartenstein on Turner and they could put Chet on Siakam. And that would be the reason why you would change your starting lineup, in my mind. Why would you do that after the run they're on? Your starting five is good. There's nothing. I'm going to go check in a minute the advanced metrics, but I can't believe that starting five had anything but a positive net rating. And so what did I tell you? I texted you, didn't I? And when I looked at it in the very beginning of the third quarter,
Chet
was on Turner.
And it wasn't J. Will.
They put J-Dub on Siakam.
Yep, that was J-Dub.
And that's fine too. I mean, J-Dub's a good defender and he's got really long arms, so that's fine. And it worked out, right? Like OKC had an early lead and everything was going okay. And then I liked, when Hartenstein comes in, and they brought Caruso in. It seemed like that also shook some things up in a positive way for OKC. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that again. Do we think they're going to have the same starting lineup in game 2?
I think they'll go back to what they had and have Hartenstein in the starting lineup. I think so personally. But Siakam, again, not a huge night for him, but I'm big on Siakam, honestly. I think he's a really good number 2. And he was very deserving of the Eastern Conference MVP, in my opinion, even though it looked like Hallie didn't expect it.
He certainly didn't. I mean, I think Siakam, Hallie, for the one game he laid an egg, game 5, I think that was it. If he just had played normal, then he wins it hands down. I think there's that little crack in the armor there, and it gave it to him. But this is one of those balanced teams. It's a little bit tough. But Hallie is Hallie. He's the guy, right? He's winning. He deserved it. The starting lineup in the playoffs for the OKC was a plus 4.7. Now if you substitute, I got to try and find that one. I don't know how common that lineup was. They went with it's Wallace for Hartenstein.
Well, Wallace started like 40-something games this year, so they've played that lineup before.
That's true. That's because Chet was hurt for that big stretch, right?
Yeah, I don't think the starting lineup is. I don't think you overreact and change the starting lineup. I think it's just that fourth quarter, the last 8 minutes, 7 minutes, they went small and they took both bigs out, right? Well, they took one out, and then the last 2 minutes they took both of them out. Naismith gets that huge rebound. Maybe if they have one of those bigs in there, they get the rebound, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's more towards the end of the game. They need to have at least a big out there because they were just the tallest guy was J-Dub, I think.
Yeah, I can tell you that right now. Oh, look at that popcorn machine.net is up already. So the closing lineup they had that went -9. Ouch. The last 3.5 minutes they went -9, which is hard to do. Was Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, SGA, Caruso, and Jalen Williams. So no bigs.
Yeah.
And that was to combat the lineup of Nesmith, Siakam, Toppin, and Nembhard. And Obi is not a big, but he plays big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all played big. I mean, Nembhard plays big too. Like you said, they can do whatever needs to be done. Let's see here. Let's keep.
Also,
oh yeah.
I was just gonna say you could look at the rebound differential as well. They got killed on the glass.
Mm-hmm.
They did. I'll tell you that one in a second. What that was. The Drew Show is back for more. All caps. Cope. OKC needs more shots. Had 98 to 82 plus 16. Cope OKC fan had 3 more free throws. OKC overrated. They're overrated. SGA free throw merchant. Okay. Well, Drew's having. He's sitting back on his couch having a good time.
He's on one tonight. I love it.
Yeah. And then Cliffside, we're back to Cliff. Who does the 3-day wait before game 2 affect more? Who does the 3-day before
neither
affect more? What does that mean?
Like it's the
longer break between games. Do we think it affects Indiana more or OKC more? Or?
I don't think it affects either of them because they're both young teams. Maybe OKC because it sticks in their head a little bit more. Maybe they come out a little tense because they have to wait longer, but I don't think it affects any of them. It's
I mean, the Pacers are going to have to walk through some stuff to figure out how to combat their defense a lot better.
Yeah. And
if you want to use the whole Carlisle versus Dagnall thing, then Carlisle, could use those 3 days to his advantage, I would think.
Yeah.
OKC is going to have to be very concerned. All the pressure is on them.
Oh, absolutely. And
I think there's validity to Cliffside's question because I think it could affect OKC more. I hate to relate it to officiating, but that's what I know. So whenever I have a bad game, and yes, refs do have bad games from time to time, even me. But whenever I have a bad game, I cannot wait to get back out on the court the very next night to just get that game out of my head because it just sticks with me all day long the next day if I let it, especially if I missed a clutch call or just like a player, if they missed a clutch shot, you just want to get to that next day quickly, the next game as quickly as possible to get that last one out of your mind and get back on track. So maybe it affects OKC in that manner.
For sure. Now, really quickly, before I forget, let's talk about that lane violation that they called, because I know we wanted to bring that up and you're here as a ref. So if you might not remember, they who did they give the free throw? Siakam. They gave another free throw to Siakam because of a lane violation you almost never see. And the funny thing was he missed the first one, and I wrote down in my notes before he even took the second one. I really don't like the hitch he has where he gets the ball, he starts to shoot it and again stops, and then he shoots it again, which we see big guys do sometimes because they have so much power. They're trying to control that, and that's what they do. It's not that advisable when you're talking about a repetitive notion to interrupt it every time.
Yeah.
But how did that affect the rebounders?
Okay, so with that little hitch, it's natural for some of the lane players, the ones lined up in the lane spaces, to maybe leave early. And when you have all of them leaving early like they did, it's kind of a wash. So then it comes down to, I say this all the time, advantage, disadvantage, okay? The person who was called for the free throw violation was Lou Dort. He was in the 3-point key. He was stationed outside of the 3-point area, right? But before Siakam was even starting the attempt, he was already inside it. And then he leaves way early, and he is the one that got his first touch on the ball for the rebound. So he gained the advantage. If that ball would not have bounced and rebounded to Dort, And granted, it became loose. It hit off his hand and went down there. But if it had not rebounded to Dort, it would not have been called a lane violation.
Right. And it wouldn't be called if it goes in.
And it wouldn't be called if it goes in. Right. Exactly. Right. Because it was a violation on the defense. That's a delayed violation. You don't call it. But because that rebound deflected back to the person who violated, then he's going to be called for the violation.
Now, let me ask you. There is a rule that says you can't fake a free throw to lure someone to doing that, right?
Right. The thing is it's well documented that that's Siakam's natural motion, so they have to be prepared for that. These guys play against each other, a few times a year. They know each other. Like there's no way that should affect somebody. Like that's not trying to lure somebody into the lane by trying to fake your free throw attempt. In my opinion, that's his natural shooting motion, and they need to know that they need to hold off an extra tick.
For sure. Well, let's get to another super chat. We got a lot of them coming in here. Breakers, thank you so much, Breakers. Really appreciate the super chat. That Dort block felt like an all-time playoff block in the moment, but on replay, he drifted into him. Should have been a foul. Chris, you feel me? Wow, Chris, you got any question?
No, after watching the replay, no, it was clean. He was in his space. I don't think he drifted enough for it to be a foul. Definitely clean. It was super impressive.
It was super impressive, and I can give some insight here if I can. So, one of those. Remember, I said on another live show, high intensity, high certainty for refs in high intensity situations, which this definitely qualifies as that. Right? It's right near the end of the game, like it's they're charging back. In this situation, high certainty is key. We need to have high certainty when we blow our whistle, because this is going to be an L2M report. It's going to affect, it could affect the game. In this situation, when you referee the defender on the live play, you see Dort jump up straight within his vertical plane, hands above his shoulders, which is in the rule book. His hands are above his shoulders, arms above shoulders. And even if there was a tiny little drift right there, it's almost like they just need to be, the defender just needs to be inside of a phone booth, essentially, right? In that situation, unless he's jumping obviously A to B, it needs to be an obvious point A to point B. And that simply was not, in my opinion, incredible verticality maintained right there. And then incredible job to be able to swipe down and get just the ball on that follow through. And the fact that it's incredible core strength. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when you're jumping up straight up and you're in the air and somebody jumps into you like that, your arms normally come down. So for him to be able to keep his hands straight up is incredible core strength. Boom, there's no drift there. There's no drift there. He's perfectly vertical in my opinion. He jumps from point A, and he would have come right back down in point A if not for the contact. The contact is what pushes him to a different point on the floor. That's incredible verticality right there.
Yeah.
So, sorry to disagree with you, Breakers, but yeah, I definitely do not see any foul there.
Yeah. You got to. I mean, you can't call a foul on that. That's just too good. I mean, great positioning, great. By the way, a strong drive to the basket, like that's just you don't want to penalize anybody who doesn't need to be penalized for something like that.
And just to say this last thing, if he had a call to foul on that, he would have been graded. It would have been graded as an incorrect call in the post-game report. Either L2M report. I can't remember if it was the last 2 minutes or not, but either way, they get graded on all their plays by the evaluators, and that would have been graded as an incorrect call if he would have called that.
All right, well, let's go. The Drew Show is still on us, guys. What are you talking about, Coach Nick? I've revealed tons of times I'm a disgruntled Spurs fan. Oh, forgive me, I forgot. Fire Pop still. Wow, in Texas, he wants Pop fired even
after he's fired. Fire him again.
Wow, as a Spurs fan, no Rick is better than Pop. Wow. All right. Listen,
Rick better than Pop. Okay.
That's not nice. That's very not, a nice thing to say to anybody. So we always treat you. I always figured you were the nicest guy in the world. So let's keep that impression up instead of the other. And here he is again. Fire Pop drafted Bissell, not Hallie. Fire Pat Foe. Pat Foe, is that somebody?
President is no, never mind.
Because the other
in front office or no, hang on, I don't know.
Anyhow,
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, listen, Bissell is not bad. If you could draft a guy that can play consistent minutes like Bissell, that you're not doing too badly. And Breaker stuck with us. Boy, if it's the fourth in game two. Boy, if it's in the fourth in game two. Oh,
if it's a close game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll get some all-time. And by the way, I have confidence OKC will be able to rebound as well, like we saw after they folded against Denver in that first
Yes.
second game, whatever game that was. That they'll figure it out too, and then we all benefit, right? Because then we get a real another one. But did we feel like this was? Do we feel bad for OKC, like they kind of just completely melted, or was this like an Indiana thing? Indiana taking the game and winning it. You got to have a little bit of both, right? But I don't think it was like the best of the best back and forth, right?
I think Indiana took it. If Indiana, even if Indiana would have lost this game, I would have still felt good about them in game 2, just because of their approach of how they defended SGA. I think that SGA, you have to his shot. He had 30 shot attempts tonight.
Yeah,
That's a recipe for you to win the game. Getting him to just keep taking shots, and especially if Chet and Jalen Williams are going to be inefficient or hesitant in those moments, that's an advantage for the Pacers. I don't think the Pacers are going to win. If they do win this series, it's not going to be because of their offense. It's going to be because of their defense. OKC's defense is too good for the Pacers to beat them offensively. I think they're going to beat OKC with their defense. And they can. I think.
I don't usually do this, but this is, by the way, if you're ever curious how I do my breakdowns for the games, popcornmachine.net's a huge resource for me because it gives you a linear box score, basically, right? So this is the score, and you can see the runs. So here, obviously, a 15-4 run in the fourth quarter. And let me make this a little bigger so we can see it. You can see it was from 9:42 to 6:16. Can you see that part? Is that
they had 2 runs? Yeah, they had 2 runs, right? The beginning and the end. That's crazy.
But you can then roll over here and see who was on the court. So you got Nesmith, Turner, Haliburton, Toppin, and Nembhard, +9 in literally, in 4 minutes. It's not easy to do in the fourth quarter with that run. And then here's that same thing. So it's Nesmith, Turner, Haliburton, Toppin, Nembhard, and then so Turner comes out and they bring in Siakam for Turner. They go small with the other same 4 guys. And now who's in the middle here? Nembhard, Siakam, Haliburton, Turner, and Nesmith. So they kept Turner in and they brought Siakam in, and then they take Turner out.
They switched them. Yeah.
So you can see now on the alternatively here, you can see they went with Wallace. What we noticed, no Chet. Hartenstein doesn't finish games normally anyway for them. Interesting enough, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
They like to go small. Yeah.
But they went back with and they had Caruso to finish and with the other guys who didn't start, because the starters were you can see they didn't have Chet didn't finish, and who was the other starter that didn't?
Or the other starter?
1, 2, 3, 4. Wallace. All right, so who didn't? I guess it was just Chet. Okay. Chet. So that's interesting. So they might play with that a little bit down the stretch as well to see how they might get some better play, or just feel like they had the game and they just need to kind of clean up a couple possessions and they wouldn't have to worry about who's playing. Let's get to did we finish all our super chats? We got one more. We got Ben is back here. Am I delusional, or is Siakam and Turner better players than Hartenstein and Chet, or the same? Ooh, that's a great question to ask in the middle of our discussion. Yeah. What do we think?
Man,
I don't think this is a Chet series. I think after what Miles Turner had to guard with, he was getting killed by Cat. I think going from Cat to Chet is like, thank God. Just offensively not having too much to worry about, because Chet isn't really that type of driver that Cat is. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a harder series for Chet to impact offensively.
Yeah, it's funny.
Better players as a whole, though, like between those two get together, like not just in this series, but you think Siakam and Turner? Do you like Siakam and Turner over Hartenstein and Chet?
I think Hartenstein in New York obviously had a lot more of a role in the offense, and now he's just like the little jump hook, little floaters he does. Really doesn't get to pass from the high post, right? All that stuff that made him really, really valuable, I thought. Right? I can't picture the last time he got any kind of dribble handoff action on the elbows.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, he ran in New York. He ran a lot of. He always got the ball in the short roll, and then it's either the passes to the corner or his floater that always went in.
Yeah. And like him and DiVincenzo could play off of that really well. And, DiVincenzo is lamenting that he doesn't have that, where he is now in Minnesota. So, so that's an interesting thing where it's like, you can't argue with the results. They're in the finals. They might still be favored. They, whatever they are. So it's working, but like they're leaving some things on the table here that they might need to turn to at some point. But again, having not done it all year long, I don't expect it to suddenly appear. But as a result, you're right. Siakam is going to be much more of an impact on offense, and Turner will be too. Turner couldn't deal with Mitchell Robinson either. Like that was really rough for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had to drag, Anthony,
Bradley
out of the mothballs, and then Robert. Why am I the first names are only coming to me?
No, Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant. Oh yeah, not Robert.
He hit a three. He hit a three in this game too in the corner.
Yeah. Again, and every shot's huge when you win by 1 or whatever. So yeah. So I think that Siakam and Turner are going to end up being more impactful, I think, than Hartenstein and Chet. So
yeah, I think so.
Interesting. So all right, well, listen, we hit our hour. It's late for you guys in the East Coast, so thanks for staying up with us, and thanks for everybody. Great show, huge crowd. Yes, Chip.
We got one more. Breakers is back.
Oh my God, how do you see that? I guess you're in my same thing. You can see it. All right, here we go. Breakers, thank you so much, Breakers. So generous, really, and everyone above and beyond tonight. Really appreciate it. Breaker says, when Hallie let it go, did you think it was going in? No, I didn't think it was going in.
I did.
I shouldn't be that way, but I was like, it's a weird 19.
It was a bad shot. It was a bad shot, but you just get the feeling it's going in with him in those situations. It's crazy.
It felt like it was like a two-hand, like a just kind of like toss.
Just inside the 3-point line, too. Like, not a good shot.
I thought it was a bad shot, but I think he thought Caruso was going to come and double. That's where that pause comes from. If you look at it, Caruso is at that wing, and he drives, and you see Caruso turns his back and runs. So I think that's where the hesitation in that pull-up happened, and it may have worked in his favor. Maybe if he doesn't, he maybe misses it, but who knows? At this point, I had to believe him. I had to believe it was going to go in after all the shots he's been making in the playoffs. So if he has the ball and they have a chance to win the game, I think he's going to make it at this point. I can't. It's hard not to believe.
It's like, I mean, I guess there's a certain shot selection in which I would be like, no, I don't think that's going to go in. But in that situation, I just feel like he's got his step back going. Like we've seen him hit it, so many times in that situation. And I love what Breaker says too, man. Love the way it went in. He went in and got it. Guy who wants that last shot, relaxed enough to hit him. That's rare. I agree, man. I agree. Just incredible.
He just dribbles and then pulls up.
Yep.
So
did you see Caruso? If you look at Caruso, it looks like he was thinking about it, but then leaves.
Yeah, and Caruso should have gone because that's tough. If Siakam had made it to the corner, he's for sure you leave him because by the time he gets the ball, he won't even get it off in time, probably.
Exactly.
But Siakam started going to the basket. That's where you get into trouble because he could kind of catch it in the air and put it in, and then you're done. And then being crucified. So that's tough. But you definitely want to run at him with somebody who's on the perimeter at least to get it, add another guy. But that was just, just crazy cash. A great shot. In fact, in the form looked better than looking at it now than it did live. But let me finish the question. So semi-hezzy pass fake with a minor double pump. I didn't see that. Love the way he went and got it. A guy who wants the last shot and is relaxed enough to hit him. Rare. I mean, you can't say enough about this guy, and he's done it now. This is so he did it.
Fourth.
It's the fourth one. All right,
I think so.
He had the crazy one in game 1 against the Knicks. He had one off the missed free throw against the Cavs.
Yep.
That was a 3. Right, that was a 3.
Oh yeah, pulled back.
Yeah, in the ISO, they hit a 3. Did he do it?
He hit the layup, the driving layup on Milwaukee with Giannis on him.
Yes, driving layup on Milwaukee was a little less dramatic, but dramatic because you think that Giannis is going to pin that, right? Didn't do it.
Yeah.
And tonight is 4. Amazing.
So he's hit one in every series.
Every series.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's the new Dame basically for that kind of stuff.
I don't know. This is something else. I haven't seen Dame.
Did I see them put a stat up on the screen at the end of the game when they were interviewing him that says he's got 5 career game-winning shots within the last 5 seconds?
Probably.
Yeah,
And 4 of those are in this playoffs?
Yeah.
But the other thing is his shooting percentage and the clutch. I've seen that
crazy.
stat. I've seen that stat before.
Something,
it's like he shoots 90% or something in those moments or something weird. Like whatever that was, I know that they were posting something. The guy, and it was enough shots where you're like, this is not a fluke. This is not like a 3 game.
It's not. It's not anymore. It's probably even higher now after all these shots. Because I think that was regular season. I don't think it was the playoffs.
Here's the graphic. Most go-ahead or game-tying field goals in the final 5 seconds of fourth and overtime since 97 playoffs. Haliburton has 5, Reggie Miller has 5, and LeBron James has 8.
Yeah.
Huh. LeBron has that many?
Well, he's played like 23 seasons.
That is true. So anyhow,
a lot.
I can picture LeBron like passing off sometimes. That's what I'm thinking. Like they're there too. But and by the way, rightfully so. Those are the great plays when he made those back in the day. But well, listen, I think we covered all the super chats. We covered all the questions. I think we broke this game down pretty well. So thank you guys for staying up with me and doing this. I really appreciate it. Can't wait for game 2. Hopefully you guys are around with that. Join us on Sunday.
Coach, I have one quick question. What do you think of Siakam being like 6 inches behind the free throw line when he takes his free throws also?
Yeah.
There's a lot of space there.
Is that really where he is? I've gotten over that. I probably in my younger years would have been like, get to the line because how do you know exactly where to be, right? Where is it 6? Is it 7? Are you going to be off by an inch because there's no mark to put your foot on, right? But obviously he shoots them long, right? He's tall, he's long, he really has a hard time. I would probably work to explore a little bit more how to control the power so that you could just get to that line. But if he could convince me from a scratch, being able, and like 10 times in a row, he can put in, maybe we're measuring it every time, that he gets his foot in the right spot every time, then I'd probably be like, fine, you can do it. But that's the key, right? If you can't find that spot every time and it's got to be like different gyms, like, go to different gyms, different.
Yeah,
pouring.
Exactly.
Then I'd be worried because now he's 6, he's 5, he's 3, he's 7, that would be a problem.
Speaking of free throws too, I know they probably ended with a decent or a fair free throw percentage, the Pacers, but I think I looked it up and I think it might have ended like this. Tell me if in the box. I think everybody that took a free throw for Indiana missed at least one tonight, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, everybody missed one. They ended up at 71.4%, which is low.
Yep. Yeah.
And then meanwhile, OKC was 87.5, 21 for 24. So yeah, I mean, I guarantee if I look up what I'm sure the team free throw percentage is sure higher in the playoffs. The stats site is a little slow today. Let me see traditional stats in the playoffs. Wow, I'm still waiting. In the playoffs, the Pacers shot from the free throw line 79%. So they were well below what they normally are. In their regular season, they shot 79%. So yeah, expect them to probably make more free throws as well. So this is kind of spelling doom, I think, for OKC to some weird degree, right?
Yeah, you miss that many free throws and you commit that many turnovers and still get the dub.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In the playoffs, the Pacers were turning the ball over 13 times, so which is a little high, And again, let's say they do 15 times. Well. Again, by the way, I think what it means, it's not doom for OKC at all. What it does is we'll get a great game.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think so.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think so. How many turnovers did OKC end up with?
Not a lot.
I think 7.
6. I have 6.
6. Okay.
Oh, I have 7, but maybe that's maybe the
ESPN.
They may be adjusting it, and you know how me and you talk about it all the time. Instead of a turnover, maybe it's a blocked shot.
Yeah.
They may be crediting a block in your stats. You have crediting a block, so a missed field goal and a block, and then a rebound versus a turnover and a steal.
Yeah. Interesting. Maybe, yeah, because the stats on NBA's got it at 6, but either way, it's low, very little. So they played the right game. They didn't turn the ball over. They got to the line. They made their free throws. They just, they blew some shots in opportune times. And then, again, the Pacers got hot, right? The
Yes.
Nembhard 3 was crazy. I think that the Turner 3 that he does off the dribble they banked in was ridiculous. Hallie shot was crazy. All those.
Neesmith hit a 3-2 down the stretch.
In the corner. In the corner, like rattled in.
Am I not mistaken? Like a good catch and shoot and open.
Yeah.
He was off balance a little bit, but it was tough. I think it was off of inbounds, right? He caught it. They were passing it in, I think. Or was it a broken play?
It may have been a broken play.
I feel like it's the left side, right? Like the left.
It was left side.
It was the left side.
Left side between the wing and the corner.
Yeah. It could have been a broken play, but and that's how the Pacers need to play. I mean, they're going to have to make this game messy. Again, the OKC had so much control for so long. It just kind of feels like they'll be able to recreate a lot of that again. But you can't ever count these guys out.
Nope.
Man, what a great way to start the finals. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Great game one, fellas.
Absolutely.
Great game one. Hopefully
Great.
we have a game. Hopefully we go 7. I would love a 7.
Yeah, if it's like this and they can make the rest of the game really interesting too, then awesome. So let's do it. I'll see you guys back here in the next one. And thanks so much for joining us, everybody out there, especially all the super chatters out there. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, guys?
I'm in.
I'm in.